It's time for another edition of our playoff preview series. Hey, it's Matt from Puck Rivals, and this one is going to feature the final matchup in the West Division between the top-seeded Colorado Avalanche and the St. Louis Blues. The Avs are coming into the playoffs hot after winning their final games to capture the President's Trophy, and after a phenomenal regular season have their sights set on a long playoff run ahead. The Blues have the tall task of trying to stop them, but are 2 years removed from a Stanley Cup victory, so they know how to win in the playoffs as well. This matchup might end up being a lot closer than it's being advertised as. In these videos, we look at the head-to-head matchup between the two teams, key players in the series, and at the end reveal who we think will come out on top. We have a playlist where you can find all these first-round previews, so be sure to check that out once you're done this video. Leave a comment on who you think is going to win this series, and with that, let's get right into the team comparisons of these two. Just like how the majority of their season went, most of these stats here go in Colorado's favor. They took the head-to-head matchup, but only with a 5-3 record, so just by going off that gives a look of a potential tight series. Colorado owns the better goals for and goals against, and they finished first in the league in goals for and third in the league in goals against, so it's pretty tough competition here for St. Louis. On top of that, the Avs plus 64 goal differential crushed the Blues -1 output. One thing St. Louis has the edge in is their power play, which is slightly over Colorado's rate and good for 6th in the league. If you look at stats alone, you'd think it's a no-brainer who will win this series, but the playoffs are a whole different beast, and there are some players on each team who look to impact the series and take their team to victory. So let's get into the key players for each team going into this matchup, starting with the Colorado Avalanche superstar Nathan MacKinnon. MacKinnon is hands down Colorado's best player. Don't get me wrong, he has some great players around him, but Nate is driving the bus for this team. He picks apart opponents using his speed and great hands to create space for either setting up his teammates or taking it all the way to score a highlight reel goal. And even with there being less space in playoff hockey, it's shown it doesn't matter. Nate had a solid season with 65 points in 48 games, good enough for 8th in the league and second on his team to Mikko Rantanen, who had one more point. He's had his way with the Blues during his career, producing at over a point per game against them. And then in the playoffs, MacKinnon is a whole different beast, where just last year he put up 25 points in 15 games in the bubble. So yes, he's extremely hard to contain, and you can expect more of the same this time around. Now let's get into the Blues key player who's going to have to keep a close eye on him, team captain Ryan O'Reilly. And this was yet another obvious key player pick, taking O'Reilly, the Conn Smythe winner of the Blues 2019 Cup run. O'Reilly is your jack-of-all-trades type player. He can be used in any situation and brings value in every area of the game. He's one of the best 200-foot players in the league and the perfect option to try and combat the elite Avalanche offense. He's had really good numbers against the Avs in his career, putting up 25 points in 22 games. O'Reilly is also a guy who steps it up in the playoffs. And even though the Blues definitely performed below expectations this season, he's been consistent like always. If St. Louis is somehow able to pull off what would be a massive upset, it's expected that it would heavily have to do with their captain. Aside from these two players, there are plenty of other factors that will impact how this series goes. So flipping back to the Avs, let's look at what some of those factors are. A big reason the Avs have the #1 offense in the league has to do with their scoring depth to go along with their top line. With the already mentioned MacKinnon, they have Rantanen, Landeskog, Burakovsky, Kadri, and Donskoy, who had over 30 points this season, and that's just on forward. The Avs also boast one of the youngest and best top fours in the NHL, led by reigning Calder Trophy winner Cale Makar, who had 44 points in 44 games last year. There's also Devon Toews, Samuel Girard, and Ryan Graves that complete that elite top four. It probably isn't mentioned as much as it should be due to how polarizing their offense is, but their defensive group is extremely good. And then in the crease, Philip Grubauer has had an unbelievable year that saw him post 30 wins, a .922 save percentage, and 7 shutouts. The only issue here with this team is the same one that they saw happen last year, a goalie injury nightmare. Out of all their other goalies, only Jonas Johansson has over a .900 save percentage, and none have played more than 8 games this year. I guess you could look at it and say there's still better options than Michael Hutchinson, but regardless, they're really hoping Grubauer stays healthy for this playoff run. As for the Blues, they play a much different style. There's been an injection of speed into their lineup this year from young players like Jordan Kyrou, but they just can't match up to the Avs in that aspect. The Blues' success heavily involves team structure and all 4 lines playing a responsible 200-foot game. In terms of scoring depth up front with O'Reilly, they have David Perron, who has had a great season putting up 58 points, Mike Hoffman, Braden Shen, and Jordan Kyrou. It's worth noting that O'Reilly was the only member of the team to reach 20 goals, so the Blues need everyone to chip in to be successful. On the back end, they'll need a lot from Torrey Krug, Justin Falk, and Colton Parayko if he comes back from injury in time for the start of the series. I personally don't envy anyone on the Blues blue line that has to try and contain Colorado's offense. Looking in the crease, Jordan Binnington has had his moments this year, but they will need him to be at his absolute best if they're going to have a chance of winning this series. It's pretty much a guarantee that there will be plenty of pucks coming his way once this matchup begins, and he'll have to step up his game and bounce back from last year's postseason performance in the bubble. And now for who we think will take this series. For myself, I'm taking the Avs in this one. They won the President's Trophy for a reason, and honestly the team is really fun to watch, so the fan in me wants to see them go far. For Billy's pick, he's also taking Colorado. It's tough to bet against them here with how inconsistent St. Louis has been this year. And also the Avs are poised for another run. But even with all of that being said, anything can happen in the playoffs. All the stats from the season mean nothing now, so who knows? Maybe the Blues become the bracket buster this year if they pull off this upset. Do you agree with our predictions? Let us know in the comments what you thought and who your cup favorite is. Like I said at the beginning, we have a playlist with all the first round matchups, so check the playlist link in the description to see what other previews we posted. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you like hockey videos because that's what we do in this channel. This is Matt from Puck Rivals, and I will see you in the next one.